This is an album that in the Dolby Atmos format, you don't just listen to, you exist within. Hello, my name is Ian Beabout, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, I thought I would finally take a look at the recently released Red 50th Anniversary Collection from King Crimson. And this is the latest in a series that up until this point has included the complete studio sessions. That's not the case for this release, but we'll get more into that in just a minute. But what is included is a new Dolby Atmos mix that was done just this year, new 2024 stereo mixes, which are included on the CD as well as the Blu-ray, newly produced elemental mixes by David Singleton, and some session material, as well as some live material. So there's 4 discs total. There's 2 CDs and 2 Blu-rays. And I found that the best way to kind of talk about this is to talk about the Blu-rays, because the CD content is essentially an abbreviated version of that. And I'll just run that down really quickly. So CD1, you have the 2024 stereo mixes. This is a new stereo mix, which is, I'm guessing, a fold down of the Dolby Atmos mix. So it was probably one mix that was created, and then you get both the Atmos and stereo taken from that. CD1 also contains the instrumental mixes, which would obviously be Fallen Angel, One More Red Nightmare, and the first part of Starless. Because the thing is about this album is that it is largely instrumental to begin with. Then on CD2, we have the new elemental mixes, which are fascinating, as well as some selected session material, namely the creation of Starless, the epic 12-minute track that closes out this album, as well as King Crimson's 70s work. You move on to the Blu-ray discs. On Blu-ray disc 1, you have a couple of unreleased concerts, as well as one that has been released before. And that would be the 1974 final performance, which I think I read was from July 1st. And you have 3 versions of the New Jersey concert. This would have been the show that was used for the USA album, and there is a mix of USA included. In addition to that, the 2 mixes of the New Jersey show. This is essentially the same content that was on the Road to Red box set, as well as I guess the 40th anniversary edition of USA, which I never bought. There are no new mixes of the USA material or New Jersey concert material, which is kind of a sticking point for me, because I do wish that there was more multi-channel live Crimson available. If we are doing the albums in multi-channel, it would be nice if they picked up sort of in the way that Jethro Tull have done and produce the live material in 5.1 or Atmos 2. But I guess I read that Robert Fripp has had some sort of edict against releasing multi-channel live mixes, with the exception of the Amsterdam performance, which is included on Starless and Bible Black. So and then that's the other thing, like on the 2009 Steven Wilson 5.1 mix of Red, there's they include the Journey to the Center of the Cosmos, which is from the Providence, Rhode Island concert, which does feature on this album on the improv called Providence. And I think it would have been nice to include Providence. However, it is, I do have it in my collection as part of The Great Deceiver. So not a huge deal. I'm happy to have USA here because I didn't own it otherwise. But I'm just saying that if you own Road to Red, if you own USA 40th Anniversary Edition, there's nothing new here in terms of that content. Now, the Blu-ray Disc 2 contains all of the album-related mixes. The 2024 Dolby Atmos mix of the album is phenomenal. It's an absolutely, in my opinion, perfect translation of the stereo mix to a multi-channel format. And it is an improvement over the 2009 version, I feel. I didn't A/B them, but I'm very familiar with the 2009 version because I've been listening to it for years. And I just felt that the Dolby Atmos mix felt much more glued together while also adding further clarity and punch. And there was some really cool use of panning and moving things around within the speakers, such as the opening track, Red, where you have that guitar ostinato that comes in right before the cello part. And you could hear that. I could hear that traveling from the back of the room, and it kind of sounded like it was trailing up the wall and going out into space, which was a really, really, really cool effect. Two songs in particular I feel benefit immensely from the new mixes, and this, I feel like these comments could just be copied and pasted to the stereo, the 2024 stereo mixes, because they're the same mix. But I felt that the first two tracks, Red and Fallen Angel, were pretty faithful while adding further clarity, punch, detail. But the songs One More Red Nightmare, as well as the live improv Providence, are perhaps the most improved in terms of the new mixes. And I feel that One More Red Nightmare always had kind of a brittle sound to it on the original mixes, and maybe Bill Bruford's drums were a little bit ill-defined, and perhaps that's true of the whole album. But it definitely feels... I guess the whole record just has a consistency to it that I don't remember it having in the past, and I really appreciate what Steven Wilson's touch and approach has brought to this material. And a song like Providence, I don't feel like if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know it was live. And I always felt that in the original mix, that one kind of stood out as not quite fitting in with the rest of the album. And it is well recorded, and the new mix almost sounds like it's live in the studio. And to me, this is further justification for more King Crimson live material in multi-channel, because Providence sounds like you're sitting on the stage with them, and they're positioned around you in the room. And going back to the stereo mix, it sounds powerful but clear and discernible, every single part. Finally, you get to Starless, which is my favorite track on the album, and it's no complaints, no comments. It's just a perfect translation into the new format. And I noticed like some really cool stuff, like in the middle part where Fripp is playing that two-note solo, and the band is just kind of grinding underneath. When Bill Bruford's woodblocks came in, they sounded like they were in different parts of the ceiling, like they were coming from above. And I thought that was really creative. I remember that woodblock part being less prominent in the 2009 mix. In fact, I think it was all the way mixed to the back. So it was cool to hear it, back into the forefront of the mix, which it always should be. And then there's another moment like where you have the machine-like multi-layered guitars right before the sax solo. And that just seemed to be spurting and belching all around the room, kind of like Pink Floyd's Welcome to the Machine a little bit. And that was one part of the album that I was never satisfied with on the 2009 mix. And I'm talking about 5.1, but this feels more like a translation of what you'd hear in headphones, converted to your environment. This is an album that in the Dolby Atmos format, you don't just listen to, you exist within. And what more could you ask? I really think this is one of the strongest Dolby Atmos mix releases of the year, perhaps tied with Wilson's own, yes, fragile Dolby Atmos mix, but maybe a ranking of the mixes from this year is a future video. Maybe that's something I can talk about later. So next on the Blu-ray disc, we have the Elemental mixes. And basically, these are a peek behind the curtain of the process provided by David Singleton, who's been mixing with King Crimson for a number of years. So his fingerprints are all over a lot of these releases, perhaps even more so than Steven Wilson's are. Now, these Elemental mixes take elements of the recording sessions and mix them in with the finalized tracks, with the goal of giving you an insight into the process of how these things are built and made in the studio. And what struck me about these Elemental mixes is how much the woodwind guests that are on this album, how much more they are featured in the Elemental mixes. And it gives me the feeling that at one point, perhaps we could have seen a Red that was similar to Lizard, because a couple of these players were on Lizard too. And it's fascinating. And it makes me wonder, what went into the decision making to say, okay, we recorded and paid for all of these horn parts, but we feel that it should be just basically stripped back to the trio with a little bit of augmentation here and there. I wonder what went into that thought process, and I would be interested to learn more about that, because I never saw Red as being like a cousin to Lizard, but I feel that had it been released with some of those elements included, it would have felt more like that. And then this also kind of, sparks off the what if machine. And I wonder, well, what if they'd gone on tour and, you could have heard John Wetton performing Circus with Bill Bruford. That would have been amazing. So yeah, this album has always been one, I think, that hints at future possibilities, but these Elemental mixes, I think, further that discussion even more. What could have happened after the release of Red? Because, of course, famously, they broke up after making this album. So we have some selection from the recording sessions. And unlike in the Court of the Crimson King and Lark's Tongues and Aspic, the complete recording sessions, unfortunately, are lost. And all that remains is what is included. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't fascinating. I did enjoy these, although hearing multiple versions of the same songs, especially the same recordings, does tend to wear on me. But I find it fascinating, especially the One More Red Nightmare takes, which kind of drop you into John Wetton's headphones at one point. And you hear him tracking vocals for it, or you get dropped into Robert Fripp's headphones and you basically just hear the backing tracks. There is also a bit of an unreleased fragment included that apparently came from a tape that belonged to John Wetton. And that's interesting because it sounds like perhaps the beginnings of an unreleased song. It's short. It's like less than 2 minutes, but I thought it was a nice addition. Okay, so now that I've kind of told you everything that's included with this collection, it's time to discuss my verdict. I feel that overall, as a package, this is a step back from Lark's Tongues and Aspic for a couple of reasons. Number one, Lark's Tongues and Aspic did include the complete recording sessions, which was like 8 hours of material. or something like that. And I'm still getting through that. I haven't listened to all of it yet. I've just kind of picked at it, but from a, I guess, consumer standpoint, which I hate to use that word, but from a music buyer's perspective, I liked the idea of, oh, I'm paying like $40 and I get the album in Dolby Atmos and 5.1 surround sound. I'm getting instrumental mixes, the elemental mixes, and, oh, by the way, the complete recording sessions. In the case of this, that value for money doesn't really exist. And part of that is that this box set is more expensive than the Lark Songs and Aspects set. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure that there are perfectly reasonable logistical reasons for that. However, I just feel that you don't get as much exclusive content through buying this box versus the Lark Songs and Aspect box. That said, the Dolby Atmos mixes are incredible. The new stereo mixes are incredible. And if you love this material, even if you don't have Dolby Atmos, it might be worth hearing the stereo remixes. And if you're interested in a peek behind the curtain into the making of the album, the elemental mixes are phenomenal. They're a phenomenal opportunity for that. So that may interest you if you aren't Atmos capable and you're only in stereo. The first Blu-ray disc, which contains the USA albums, doesn't really offer anything new to people who've bought many copies of this record. And the shows included, with the exception of the Central Park 1974 show, just don't sound that good. They're of bootleg quality, and they might be of interest to people who absolutely have to have everything, or are interested in hearing everything and don't mind sound quality. But for me, I found them kind of tough to listen to. Now, it is my plan to do another episode on this with my friend Mike. Mike and I just did the King Crimson ranking videos on this channel last month, and I may revisit some of these concerts for that conversation and have more to say about them. But as of the moment, I really feel that these concerts are very much for the fans only. And for somebody like me who kind of would like to have more more stuff in Atmos and multi-channel, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. They could have mixed Providence, that concert. They could have mixed that in multi-channel, and it would have been an awesome inclusion with this set. So going forward with Starless and Bible Black, if they do decide to do that within the next year or so, it would be nice to include some multi-channel live mixes along with it. Because obviously with that album, you're not going to have studio sessions like you would Court of the Crimson King, Lark Songs and Aspect, because it's a live record. So yeah, that's kind of my thought. My recommendation is that if you love this album and you are interested in a peek behind the into the studio process and how these things are put together, it might be well worth it. I do think that most of the best of this set is included on the Blu-ray discs. So if you're not able to listen to music on Blu-ray disc, it might be less enticing for you. Some of you folks who collect vinyl may want to get the new vinyl master because it is that vinyl release is taken from this mix. So that might be a good way to acquire that new mix. But I think that pretty much wraps up all I wanted to say on this set. I'm glad to have it. I think it's worth having for the Atmos mixes. I just feel that in a lot of ways it doesn't quite live up to other releases in the series. And a lot of that has to do with the unavailability of the studio sessions. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in further updates. I'm going to do the Jethro Tull Christmas album very soon. That should be arriving within a month or so, as well as the new Opeth album, The Last Will and Testament, that is coming hopefully within a week. So thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to leave a comment letting me know what you thought of all this. All right, bye-bye.